Stuart, how do we get church techs to stop wasting time on things that probably just don't matter?
Boy, I don't know. Do you have any ideas?
I mean, let's start with what things probably just don't matter.
Well, thinking about preamps, if you're tossed up between, like, let's just pick two consoles, X32, M32, and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know. I mean, the preamps are better in the M32 versus the X32, and I mean,
most of the production level that you're doing in your church, it's just not going to matter.
Folks, it doesn't matter. A lot of these things do not matter.
I think that's it. Like, a lot of church tech people are very tech-minded, and they just get really excited about specifications, manuals, frequency response, preamps, just all these trigger words, right?
Yeah, it reminds me of when I used to do music retail, and guys would come in with a guitar, and they're like, man, I need to get a different pickup in this thing. And then we discuss endlessly about like, well, this humbucker, this Seymour Duncan, whatever, versus this, whatever. And I'm like, what I really wanted to say to him was like, listen, buddy, what you need is guitar lessons. Because you're pretty average right now.
Yeah.
And a new pickup in your guitar, it ain't going to do anything for you.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, before you start getting into these discussions about what kind of gear we need or what equipment we need, like, we need to be asking a lot more simple questions.
Yes.
What's my attitude towards working in the church?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, that's a big one.
Huge.
Why aren't we asking that more often? Like, am I bringing a good attitude to working in the church? Or do I even know how to mix sound? Because the reality is, if you think a new piece of gear is going to make your mix sound better,
It's not.
it's a misconception.
No.
Like, your mix is a product of you, not your gear.
Yeah, learn your frequencies. That's a big one. That's a lifelong event right there.
Oh, yeah. You never finish that journey.
No, but knowing your frequencies, hearing stuff in things, that's huge.
Because I remember I got to work with a mobile church a few months ago, and you never know what you're going to get when you walk into those setups, which is kind of fun. And so I walked in, and it was a couple of average powered speakers, and it was an old analog desk. And it was some basic Sennheiser vocal mics. And I thought to myself, yes.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited to put this together because I knew it was going to really challenge me, because all of a sudden I didn't have all those cool things available to me. I didn't have compressors and EQs and reverb. I didn't have any. Like, I had a powered speaker, which I knew was going to sound like trash because it's a cheap power amp in a plastic box. And I had an analog mixer that had one sweepable mid. No graphic EQ on the mains, nothing.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm still proud of this situation to this day. What I did is I used my brain.
It's a good place to start.
It's a good place to start. I thought to myself, I don't have a lot to work with. What's the biggest problem I'm going to be fighting? It's going to be feedback, because I've got a bunch of mics, and so I just could tell it was going to be a loud service.
Yeah.
So I knew I was going to be fighting feedback. Okay, so what can I do to fight that? I don't have graphic EQs. I don't have all these things that people think they need. Okay, so here's what I did. I set a microphone up in the middle of the room, and I put the fader at 0, and I started gaining it up. Got a little feedback. I went to my teeny little EQ section and just kind of worked it back a little.
Yeah.
Gained it up a little more, got a little more feedback. Gained it up a little more, got a little more. That was it.
Yep.
3 adjustments. And I knew that's all I was going to be able to make. And why? Because that's all my EQ. It gave me a limitation. It said, this is all you can make.
And sometimes when you're limited like that, you get way better mixes.
My favorite part of that service, though, so I finished this ringing out process, which this is just one of many. Don't gospel truth what I just said. Don't write it down and go like, this is 3. The only way to EQ a system. No, it was just the way that I chose that day.
Sure.
There's many different ways to do it, but I had one thought in mind. And that's what you talk about a lot. As a sound guy, we need to work more on philosophies and mindsets rather than gear. My mindset that day was, here's the limitation. Powered speaker, simple analog board, vocal mic. So I started with a problem. My solution was to ring it out the way I did. It was one solution. And then I walked up to that mic. Everything's wide open. It's the most gain I'm going to be able to get out of it. And I said, check 1, 2. And it sounded awesome.
Yeah, I bet.
And I went, dang.
Yeah.
These dumpy little powered speakers and this vocal mic and this little analog desk, like, it sounds good.
Yeah.
Why does it sound good? This is the important part. The reason it sounded good was because I thought about what I was going to do. I applied sound principles.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we try to teach on our podcast. Principles.
Mm-hmm.
Not techniques, not EQ curves, principles. I applied a sound principle that I knew was sound. I knew that if I followed a set plan, I would end up with a good result. But it was still really satisfying to say, check 1, 2, no feedback, as loud as possible.
Yeah.
And it sounded really good.
You know, we're an audio company. We sell a lot of gear. We install a lot of gear, and it's expensive gear.
Yeah.
A lot of it's expensive. I'm here to tell you that mindset, changing your mind, changing your attitude, that's all free, and that's way, way, way more important than the fancy gear that you could buy from us or from somebody else or have it installed.
No matter what gear you end up in front of, that's why we can walk into any church. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
I don't even care. You don't even need to tell me what soundboard you have.
Do you have a favorite soundboard? I don't care.
Yeah.
Give me a soundboard, something.
Because what we're going to do is we're going to apply principles that are free to learn. You can learn them the rest of your life, and you can take them with you anywhere.
Yes.